Hello, I am Tiny Joy now, and today we are building Madame Fleur's ballet school for little sweethearts. I hope you bring your Sims here and they play and they learn to dance. And I am totally kidding. That is my terrible fake French accent. It's more of a joke. I can't speak that much French, not like I used to. And if you're French, I hope you weren't offended. Just having a little fun. I know you're probably like, we don't sound like that. So I made a ballet school, and if you're searching for it in Origin, the simplest way would probably just to go to my Origin name, which is in the description below, and it will come up as M. Fleur's ballet school. It wouldn't let me put the full title because I personally view it as Madame Fleur's ballet school for little sweethearts, because in the build in the main studio I put lots of little hearts around to kind of signify that. So that's just how you'll search for it if you're looking for it. Now, I hope I don't upset anyone when I say this, but Sims 4 doesn't have a ton of gameplay. It just doesn't. I don't care what your politics on it. It just doesn't. So I'm always trying to think of, like, lately my builds have been more centered on how can I play in this? More than like, I don't know, I just don't want another bar or another park. Like, if it's going to be a park, it's got to have a purpose to it. So I was thinking, something I really miss, and I look forward to them possibly adding in the future, is I would love if they gave more activities for our Sims to do, especially our kids, because I'm sure I'm not alone in this. Everyone's like, yay toddlers, which we're so happy about. But it's like, oh man, kids just don't have a freaking purpose. Like, they can't do a lot of activities. It's really, like, they can't even have their hair dyed, which is like annoying. Even in my CC, because I'm building this for my Not So Berry challenge, my little girl who has the, rose colored hair, it keeps changing. So I was like, okay, what do I miss? I miss in Sims 3 that you could take your little kids, to after school activities. So I have a little boy and I have a little girl, and I'm thinking of having my little boy be in the Scouts. Maybe if you want and you request it, I could totally build something that's like a Boy Scouts or a treehouse type vibe for the little kids to go and be in like a little Boy Scouts club. But for this specifically, I'm building a little ballet studio, and I thought this would be a great place to bring my little Sim. Now, I'm very much, pointing out that it is owned by Madame Fleur. Now, let me tell you about Madame Fleur. She is a retired ballerina. I'm so sorry. I couldn't think of the word for a second. And she's French. I'm so sorry I'm very salivary today, so I apologize. I'm trying to keep those sounds to myself, but you do what you gotta do. So Madame Fleur is French, and she's very strict. Oh, she makes sure her little sweethearts, she makes sure they win. You will actually see further on the build that her little sweethearts have won quite a lot of awards. But the reason why I point out her kind of demeanor and where she's from is what the build is highly influenced by. So very floral, very French wallpaper, even the way the presentation is, where everything's kind of clean but a little kind of touch of a bouquet of flowers, or everything's very clean and neat and simple, but there is a bit of warmth to it. So what I did in the build was, there's kind of 4 main rooms. There's the main studio. As you can see, I'm adding the little sweethearts there to signify the sweetheart for the ballet school. There's the main waiting room where the kids take off their little shoes, as you can see where I used from the bowling stuff pack, and switch into their ballet clothes, and the parents will wait there. Then there's a locker room, and next to the locker room is the bathroom, kind of like where you can take a shower and stuff like that. Now, I loved making this so much because I haven't even played in it yet, and I can already see my mom Sim just sitting and waiting in the waiting room while her little girl practices her poses with Madame Fleur. And I put a piano in the corner where she can play piano music for all the little kids to dance to. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun to play in. Above anything, I want to use this place as a social environment, because after school activities are really define us as little kids, whether you're enjoying them, you make friends, or you don't make friends. Specifically, don't make friends, because my little girl in the Not So Berry Challenge is kind of, she gets everything she wants. And right now, that's okay at home, but this is kind of her first interaction with other little kids we're going to see. And we're going to see that they don't really like that. They don't really like her, more snobbier, more hot-headed, get everything she wants attitude. So, you'll have to watch that, and maybe I'll link the video in the description below when I record it. But now, I do apologize. I tried my best to cut it out as much as possible, but you'll notice in certain parts of the build, I'm moving the camera a lot because I put this in Magnolia Promenade to really feel... I don't use Magnolia Promenade enough. I don't know if that's something you use a lot or don't use a lot either. Let me know in the comments below. Oh, also, while I'm speaking of the comments, feel free to like it and subscribe. Leave a comment. Would you also make this French or a little more sterile, or how would you make this build? And going on, I'm using Magnolia Promenade, so I made sure I looked around often at the buildings to see if my build matched theirs. So my build is still individualistic, but both the windows, the brick, I even matched the front window display to a diagonal store and made sure that it felt like it fit in Magnolia Promenade. So when you're going down the road to go visit and drop your little sim off at the ballet school, it feels like you're kind of going down to Main Street. Does that make sense? So yeah. I highly recommend that. This is, now obviously everyone can build the way they want, but I'm kind of starting lately to want to make my builds more like their environment. So as much as like each build has its own flavor and personality, I'm trying to make each build feel closer and similar by nature together. Like if you saw them all next to each other in the background, it made sense, because I have too many times where I look and I'm taken out of my gameplay just because one time I had a build where it was like a 1950s diner right next to, like, I don't know how to describe it, kind of like a Chinese restaurant, but like I'm talking like old school Chinese restaurant in some probably Midwestern town. And so the two definitely did not look good together. So I'm trying to take that as a focal point. Now, I don't know if you noticed the editing a little bit. That's me just trying to not nauseate you too much from the turning, but I couldn't catch everyone, so I apologize about that. But at least you can see other parts of the building, and you can see where I'm mirroring the surrounding buildings with the fences and the windows, and I'm making sure the bricks are correct, but then I'm giving the front its own color and, entrance and vibe. But one thing I love about this build is I searched really hard, because I don't know why. I know other people have less of a struggle than I do, but I always have a struggle finding the like the sidewalk pattern tile and putting it on the floor so that it matches, again, the surrounding buildings, but gives that kind of outdoor vibe. I also even went extra further and put the little detail of not only trees, but I kind of fenced it off like you would in kind of a New York setting, or I would say a general, like anywhere there's like people or towns. I notice the town council or whatever will put more money in fencing off and protecting those little trees so they look a little more significant on the sidewalk, and I'm so pumped I did that. I'm starting lately when I'm building to pay more and more attention to those kind of features, because it really adds up. It really makes the build have a lot more significance. I am so sorry about my turning of camera there. I'm seeing I'm just adding in some trash cans, and this is where I'm starting to be like, what can I put in that front? And that's where I get the whole tree idea. I was gonna put seats out front, and then I quickly stopped and pulled it away because I was like, Madame Fleur would never want anyone hanging out in front of her school. Like, she wants business. She does not want you hanging out and not, getting ballet school lessons. She doesn't like loitering. That's not something she's into. Well, anyways, I was going to put a little tea venue. That's something I also do to make my builds feel a little more real, but I thought it looked a little too cluttered, so I didn't do that. And what I mean by the tea thing is from City Living, those little venues, I'll put them on the lots, and then I'll actually pay for someone to come, and I'll pretend as if they're just a venue outside hanging out of my particular venue to kind of, again, make it feel more real and cool. Because couldn't you imagine, while she's waiting for her little kid to kind of like play and hang out, she goes and gets a tea and kind of hangs out with the other moms? That's my personal point of view. Now, I made a little garden out front again. Of course, Madame Fleur keeps it pristine, perfect, focuses on it. But you'll notice I take down the little black fence because while it does fit the French theme really well, I think it takes away from, like, you kind of don't cherish the way the fence looks because it matches the trees fence. So I turned it to this more little tiny outlined fence. Oh my gosh, we're coming up to the screenshots. Now, last thing I'll just say is I did make this a residential lot, so you can change it to whatever you want. The reason why I made a residential lot is so you can put your Sims just in there, play with them, play with the other students, have a little more control, have it a lot easier to run and play with. Now, guys, thank you guys so much for enjoying this. I made a bunch of animations for you to enjoy at the end, and I'm not animations, like pictures and stuff, so I hope you enjoy them and enjoy the screenshots. Please like, comment, and subscribe, share, and have a lovely day. Bye, guys!